So I have said before, I do not know when our general election is going to be, but we do know when the American general election is going to be. We will know, as we said, on the 6th of November of this year. And I've said before, it's a long time to wait and hold your breath for. Um, but in terms of us in the UK, we do have a general election this year. We don't know when it's going to be, but we know it's probably not going to be in November to clash with the US general election. Plus, at that point, you would need probably the UK to respond because every single European country right now and NATO member is like, what the hell, Donald Trump? Our entire and European defense is predicated on the fact that if we are attacked, um, the US will come to our aid. That is how it has been, and of course, not only just sort of America, but all of Europe will come to the aid because of obviously NATO. If you attack one, you attack all. Sort of based on that sort of principle of shared defense. So now we will have to ask the question of: we don't know when we've got a general election. And we should also have a look at, I think today, what should happen if there is a Conservative victory. Because let's say somehow Rishi Sunak pulls off a 1992, that he manages to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. He might come out with a reduced majority. Maybe he goes into sort of coalition with another party. We don't know, but that is a possible maybe, even though, again, the polls say otherwise, given the fact that you get a general election, could potentially happen. It's not beyond the realms of possibility. Maybe something crazy happens at the general election. I don't know. I've said before, they can be crazy beasts. But having a look at what the Conservatives think on this, and that's why, of course, today we are looking at Conservative Home, because one of the people that would probably have the ear of Rishi Sunak is this guy. This is Gavin Walsh, and he is the guy who was a former security advisor to the Conservative Party. But this is someone who is still very influential in the Conservative Party when it comes to security matters. So what he has to say here is probably what would maybe end up being. We can't obviously 100% guarantee it, but this was probably what would be if the Conservatives won the general election, what the Conservatives would do in an event of a Trump victory. And of course, given Trump's current stance on NATO, it's very worrying at the moment. And here's the thing, even if this is only some sort of bluff or bluster to, quote, try and get these countries to pay their fair share, this completely undermines the deterrent of NATO itself. So just as we've said before, please don't win. Please don't win. Like I say, if you are an American, please make sure you turn out. Please make sure you get your friends and your fellow voters to turn out, because that is what will decide the election by the looks of it. But before we go more to talking about this, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there's links to my Patreon page, the one station called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. There's the YouTube thank you button. And of course, there's the Pony Club down below as well. So thank you everyone who does help support the channel. And of course, you can just click the like and share button as well. That helps out the channel as well. So let's have a crack on into this. Coming from Conservative Home with Gavin Walsh, with the title of If Trump Wins, European NATO Must Prepare to Defend Itself Against Russia on Its Own. So, at a campaign rally in Louisiana, Donald Trump made his intentions clear. He would encourage Russia to do whatever the hell they want. That is, attack NATO members. Sure, he added the caveat in his usual Trumpist way that saying it only applied to NATO members who didn't pay their dues, but Trump's caveats are not to be taken seriously. He adds them given his very sycophantic get out. He just told the people on the January 6th to, quote, be peaceful, and then they're not supposed to not be believed. Spending at least 2% on GDP on defense is something that all frontline NATO members will manage by January the 2024th. This, of course, will not change Trump's behavior. Like the wolf in the famous New Yorker cartoon, he does not hide his plans. Though he can't by law leave NATO, nobody can stop him from ordering US officials to block NATO decision-making processes and forcing him on issues to orders to respond to Russian attacks, or preventing him from withdrawing from NATO's integrated command structure, such as Charles de Gaulle did in 1976. He is no safer in the White House than Jeremy Corbyn would be in number 10. So here's the thing. I do agree with him on that, especially when it comes to Trump. There's a lot of people who say, oh, well, if Trump gets in, by law, he can't move. He can't take the US out of NATO. But as you've seen there's a lot of damage he could do. He can block the decision-making process. He can block US officials being appointed to like NATO officials. He can again force him to make orders about responding to Russian attacks. He can, as I said, withdraw from the command structure. There's a lot of stuff and damage Trump could do. He as it is right, he can't leave NATO by law, but there's still a lot of damage he can do. A lot of damage, which is again all the more worrying. So it continues. We are not in 2016 anymore. There is no need to judge Trump by his words when his actions have provided all the evidence we need. Bear in mind, this is one of the big problems that I keep on saying. When Trump was president, he threw a lot of America's allies under the bus. So we must be taking that very seriously, his word, where he says he would not come to, Europe's aid, and that he would encourage Russia to attack a NATO ally. Given the fact that we've also had that intelligence recently from Estonia saying that Russia is preparing to attack a NATO country within the next 10 years. Yeah, it's all getting a bit worrying at the moment. And this is why at the moment we have to take defense seriously, especially on the left. We cannot just let people on the right talk about this. Otherwise, they say that, the left has nothing to say about defense, when we should absolutely be saying on this stuff. So, but back to it. So, before he took office, his campaign staff colluded with Russian hackers in office. He tried to extort a fake investigation of Joe Biden's son from Vladimir Zelensky. And now he's trying to do everything he can to prevent Congress from supplying the $60 billion of US military aid to Ukraine. This is very true at the moment, still currently ongoing. Trump's pressure to get Mike Johnson elected as House Speaker, and Johnson then preventing the aid bill, which passed the Senate by 70 votes to 30 from being voted on, because he knows it would pass. Again, passed in the Senate, got to pass the House. Still the big question of what will happen there. And then there's the whole thing of the discharge position, which potentially, if this does pass, those crazy Trumpists gonna press the explode button again, and then we're gonna play pass the parcel, who gets to be speaker again, and chaos in the House again, like we saw before. So, through a procedural trick known as the discharge position, this might allow enough Republican rebels to join Democrats and approve the aid. This process could take at least another month, which means aid would only be applied in March, 3 critical months after it was supposed to have arrived. 3 months in which Russia, reinforced with millions of shells from North Korea, has been able to further to bleed Ukrainian forces, forcing them into a very slow retreat and confront a very painful question about mobilization. And that is the point, and what we keep on saying, of the more this aid gets delayed, the worse the position becomes for the Ukrainians. They need that ammo. They need those weapons. They need it now more than ever. And this is one of the things that we have to look, and maybe in Europe, we have to step up on this. Massively so. So, While a re-elected Trump would starve Ukraine and NATO allies of weapons, Russia is gearing up for a wider war. This is what we talked about, the Estonia stuff. Estonian military intelligence has uncovered that it is reverting to a Soviet-style mass army, able to field large numbers of troops and artillery against a thinly populated Baltic states and Finland. Despite Europeans' NATO technology supremacy over Russia, we would struggle to defend against a Russian attack. Only Finland and Poland have the land equipment on the necessary scale, and Poland's recent rearmament, including taking over 2,000 tanks from South Korea, will take some years to bear fruit. Furthermore, our nuclear deterrent is insufficient. The UK and France together have around 550 warheads compared to the 1,500 that Russia now has deployed out of stockpile, more than over 6,000. And this is one of the big worries about, Putin doesn't have to launch like a big nuke. He could launch a smaller tactical nuke. And this has been the constant threat that Putin has been saber rattling against, and he so far hasn't done it. But who knows? Who knows how desperate he might get or he might become. So, what is worse is that Russia's plans to defend against Russian aggression are conceived with integral US involvement. Air defense, air heavy lift, and surveillance capabilities, all dominated by American equipment. Planners expect US forces to be available, logistics experts for US spare parts for American equipment used by European militaries, again, to be in plentiful supply. None of this can be guaranteed if Trump wins, which is once again the scary thought. Because, yeah, he can't leave NATO, but again, Trump can go, well, I'm not supplying with the weapons, I'm not supplying with spare parts. So, yeah, you can see how worrying this would then potentially become. On K Street, Washington, D.C. lobbyist The Nexus, the American defense industry needs to spring into action. Were Trump to obstruct its deliveries, it would seriously undermine countries' faith in a U.S. As a defense supplier, was Tim Lawrenson, a consultant specializing in the European defense industry. The vote in the House of Representatives on the Ukraine aid will be the first test of their lobbying strength. And that is something to see whether this could apply as well. That if Trump does win, then maybe, as we've said before, rebuilding a European defense industry, not only just a European one, but a UK one as well. I've said before, we need to be at 4% to rebuild a lot of our capacity. Then there may be an opportunity. But again, setting all that up would take some time. It's not going to instantly happen overnight, but maybe then you could attract some, UK company, some US companies, maybe even US talent in the defense industries over to Europe to be able to sort of kickstart that European Defense Agency or that European defense industry. It is something that we should really, really be taking into account. And especially here in the UK, where we've got a lot of should we say, unused industrial capacity at the moment. It does give a lot of opportunities for some very good jobs to be here up in the north. That surprisingly, you could level up doing a lot of that stuff. So back to this. But it is on the back side of this that the emergency measures are most needed. First, European NATO needs to develop a contingency plan against Russia with little or no American involvement. That's very true. That is something, again, that does need to happen and should be plans for. Perhaps with the US acquisitions under the guidance of preparing to defend Europe very well at the same time as a major war breaks out in Asia. Second, of course, a joint procurement of ammunition and needs to now be accelerated. OCCAR, a European military procurement organization comprising the UK, France, Germany, Italy, and Spain, can provide the necessary legal structure to finance this entity in the absence of a UK-EU defense agreement. So there are these things. There are these things in place. We just need to get them going. And I think even more important, there does need to be a UK EU defense agreement. That is very, very clear that needs to happen. But Poland, Norway, Sweden, Finland, and of course the Baltic states should be admitted also as full members. The existing ammunition factories should move to round the clock shifts on those, especially in Finland, as they are already doing. Third, the European NATO members need to press upon the US Congress the importance of a European export market. In 2022, one third of American defense exports, worth about $5 billion, according to the authoritative database, went to the European states. These translate into orders on American factories and will sustain American jobs in swing districts. Finally, the debate needs to be had about nuclear rearmament and the extension of the Anglo-nuclear French umbrella to frontline states. Now, I've said before, I'm against nuclear proliferation. I would not want to see this happen. This is one of the parts I think I very much disagree with him on. But of course, we do have nuclear weapons, but extending the nuclear umbrella to say that we are going to protect you on that front, maybe it's not the worst idea to be able to extend that. It's probably a very good idea to look at that. So the non-nuclear proliferation treaty, again, which stops us from doing this, makes it very difficult for any non-nuclear weapon state to arm itself, and weaken it would also weaken the efforts to counter Iran's nuclear program. Again, one of the reasons why I'm against it. Again, you don't want more nuclear proliferation. I think extending this umbrella, saying that we are going to help you, help defend you in some way, probably might be a good way to thinking about that. But again, it's one of the parts I very much disagree with this guy on. But he says British or French weapons programs could be expanded, and the bases on the territory of other states or flown in their aircraft, as Germany currently does with US nuclear bombs under its nuclear sharing doctrine. Trump's re-election is far from a foregone conclusion, but unlike in 2016, nobody will be able to claim that they will have been caught by surprise. We need to get ready to defend ourselves without American help before it's too late. 100% agree with that. Again, not very much for the nuclear stuff, because again, I don't want nuclear proliferation. But saying to these states, hey, don't worry, we got your back just in case, probably going to be quite reassuring for countries like Finland, the Baltic states, Poland, etc. So probably something we should look at. But also, as I said on Geoscope, Ukraine gave up its nuclear weapons for guarantees from the UK, US, and Russia that it would sort of, not be attacked. And unfortunately, if Russia wins, this sort of then makes the case for countries to then say, well, actually, if Ukraine had its nuclear weapons, maybe it wouldn't have been invaded. So, again, defense pacts coming to people's aid, providing them weapons to do so in a defense should they be invaded, etc., etc. Very important to sort of look at if you are sort of pro denuclear proliferation on that front. But again, let me know what you think down below, because like I say, that was very much the conservative take, very much a take that is being echoed now, I think, more widely. And of course, I think the closer we get to November, I think the more people are going to become very, very nervous about, of course, Donald Trump's victory. But we'll see. We'll see. But as I said, it's a long time to hold your breath, so don't go holding your breath, people. But again, very worrying times indeed. I will agree with you on that. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.